It's great to see so many of you here tonight and some familiar faces in the crowd. I'm going to be talking to you about some of the climate action plan strategies the City of Ann Arbor has come up with. And the process for doing this, the city has assigned a task force to work on this. So Clean Energy Coalition is a partner to the City of Ann Arbor on this project, and the task force is helping us determine what are the actions we need to take to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and how can we actually achieve our greenhouse gas reduction goals in the interim and long term. So I wanted to mention that there are a couple of goals that appear to be coming out of this task force. One is a midterm goal of 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2025. So that's 25% below 2000 level emissions. And a very aggressive target of reaching 80% to 90% below 2000 level emissions by 2050. So these are very aggressive targets, and we need to figure out how to get there. So I'm going to tell you some of the ideas we've come up with so far. If we take all of the actions that the task force has pulled together at this time and we tally up all of the emissions we expect that could be achieved, and this is at the peak of all the programs. So you implement a program, it might take 10 years to actually achieve the peak reduction. But if we're taking the peak reduction for every strategy, every action, we're looking at a reduction of nearly 700,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That comes up to 40% of our 2000 level emissions. So even though we've had a task force working on this for months, we haven't identified all the strategies to get to that 80% or 90% reduction we really absolutely need to get to. So I'm going to show you where we are able to get to based on the strategies we've identified. If we take, these are our 2000 baseline levels. If we do nothing, if we continue status quo today, business as usual, and we have a 2% growth in emissions each year, this is what our emissions will look like by 2050. There will be substantial growth, a doubling, more than doubling. If there were a little bit less aggressive growth during that time period, say 0.5%, you know, the economy doesn't perk up, and hopefully it'll perk up by 2050. But it's not immediately perking up, but if we have lower growth during this time period, we're still, by 2050, surpassing our 2000 level emissions. Now, if we take all of the actions we've identified with the task force, and we tally them all up, again, this is assuming we actually implement every single one that we've identified, we are able to achieve a 28% reduction in emissions by 2025. So that helps us achieve our 2025 goal. We can get there with these, but that means implementing every single one, finding the resources and the staff and everything we need to make that happen. But something interesting happens around this time frame. If we don't do any more beyond that, our emissions actually, you start to see an uptick in the emissions at that point. And that basically, we've assumed a 1% growth in that line, so it's sort of a midpoint between those two scenarios. And what we really need to do is figure out how to get from that 2025 level that we've identified all the way to the reduction goal that we have for 2050. That's the huge task at hand. How do we get there? And I'm throwing it out to this group. You all are interested in this subject to have come here tonight. So I don't think we've, as a task force, identified all of the actions that are possible. So if any of you want to see the action list, feel free to come up and talk to me or sign a comment card while you're here tonight, and we can distribute that. There'll be more public engagement on this process as we move forward, but we are open to ideas. We want the community to be involved and engaged. But we have a huge task ahead of us, is how do we get here? And a lot of that may be technologies we don't even know exist, emerging technologies that can help us get there. I think there's definitely hope. There's optimism, but we need to figure out how to do that. And we need to do it collaboratively, all of us. We can't do it alone. So I'm going to give you just a really quick snapshot of some of the actions we've identified. This is in no way meant to be exhaustive or give you a full sense of what we've identified, but to just give you a quick snapshot of what some of them are and what are the expected reductions we would assume to achieve from that program at its peak. One of the examples we have for energy in buildings is to establish a renewable energy portfolio standard of 25%. We're looking at a reduction of around 40,000 metric tons per year. Now, there could be update our existing housing stock through weatherization programs that reach a good portion of that housing stock. And we're looking at a 14,000 ton reduction. If you look at some of the actions we've identified and put under community and health, we have create green teams or sweeps around elementary schools to promote climate mitigation strategies. We're looking at around an 18,000 metric ton reduction. And we have some actions related to adaptation or preparing for flooding and dramatic weather that we are expecting, severe weather events. So we have one that's protecting and storing our wetlands so that we can respond to these severe weather events. We right now don't have the ability to quantify exactly what that would mean as far as a metric ton reduction in carbon dioxide equivalents. But it's an important thing to do and for us to prepare. Land use and access is another category we're looking at. Increasing density through supporting redevelopment downtown. We're expecting that this could have pretty dramatic impact over time. At its peak could achieve more than 70,000 tons reduction. We have created a traffic demand management program to encourage folks to bike, walk, ride the bus more to their destinations, around 10,000 metric tons. I'm just giving these so you can see sort of the spectrum of what may be a big action and a small action, but really we actually have to do them all together to get there. So in the resource management, we have a couple samples. Implement a single-use bag banner fee. So that would be when you go to the grocery store and get your bags. Either you wouldn't be allowed to go home with, you'd have to bring a reusable bag, or you'd have to pay a fee to get a bag from the grocery store. So we modeled this, looked like about a 3%, 3,000 ton reduction. And then the other sample we have here is require city-sponsored events to be zero waste. And that has minimal impact, but doesn't mean that we necessarily don't want to do that. This is just a snapshot. If you look at all of the actions we've identified, kind of the spectrum. We have some that we think will have a big impact, some of them that we think will have a smaller impact, and some that are probably we may not be able to model. That's difficult to ascertain. But it's complicated because some of these that might have a big impact may be difficult to implement, may take a long time, may have resistance in the community. Some of them that might have a little impact may be really easy to do and we could do immediately. So these are all the things we need to be thinking about. How do we approach this? How do we solve this problem? What's the best way to do it? As I mentioned, there's going to be more opportunity for the public to be engaged. Tonight is really the first night that the city's talking about the climate action plan it's engaged in. But we will have some other events. These are events where we'll be speaking at commissions or city council. Public's obviously invited to that, but we will likely be holding one other large public engagement event to get people out and discussing this. And one thing I wanted to leave you all with, Matt already mentioned it, the Clean Energy Coalition and the City of Ann Arbor have been working together on a community energy program. And one of the things we've pulled together is A2 Energy. Right now it's started as a website. We've launched a website at the beginning of this year. There are some magnets on the back table that hopefully you saw when you came in. Feel free to take them with you, take them home, put them on your fridge. But the reason we're promoting this is we want folks to know what they can do. We want homeowners to know what they can do. We want business owners to know what they can do. We want renters to know what they can do. We want landlords to know what they can do to help with this problem. So this is just the beginning of this project. We're launching a website. We're going to be out engaged in the community this long term on this problem. But I wanted you all to know that if you want to know immediately what's something I can do, this is a place to go and find out some of that information. And the city is also a resource to you, and also the Clean Energy Coalition. That'll do it.